Now it's time to welcome our next guest, and also a very close friend, financial advisor, Steve Archer, founder of Strategic Senior Benefits Group. Steve has more than 30 years in the financial services industry, and we're happy to have Steve right here, back on the Income Generation. Good to have you, Steve.
Glad to be here, Dave.
You heard the statistic before from Numbeo.com that said the United States is ranked in the top 25 most expensive states in the country to retire. So tell me, when you talk to clients every single day in the trenches, how much is inflation and the increasing cost of living a concern to them, and what do you have to do to plan for it?
Well, it's a bit of a concern. We do plan for it in advance, figuring on a percentage increase, 2.5% to 3% per year moving forward. For most clients, this isn't a concern. Mm-hmm. For some, where it is a concern, it's usually one of three items that creates some difficulty. And the items that create a difficulty are the ones that you'd expect. Either they have not sacrificed enough and put some money aside for themselves to the extent that was necessary, or they haven't worked hard enough to bring their bills down to a manageable level before they wanted to retire. The third one is a bit more insidious, and the reason I say that is because this particular problem may not show up until a few years into retirement. So whereas the first two issues will give you a warning sign up front and you'll know that you can't retire, the third one...
You'll know the first month of retirement that it's not working out so well.
Exactly right. The third one takes you by surprise maybe 5 or 6 years into retirement. And that third one is that folks have their money invested for growth as opposed to for income. You've spoken about it on your show many, many times.
Sure, first every week.
Unfortunately, most folks don't know the difference between the two. They move into retirement thinking that it's okay to draw $2,000 a month, say, on a $400,000 portfolio, and then they find out in a relatively short period of time, but maybe too long to go back to work, they find out in a relatively short period of time that this isn't working very well.
Yeah, and it's easy to do that if you work with the right kind of advisor, somebody like yourself that specializes in the universe of non-stock market income generating options. Mm-hmm. It's easy with a snap of a finger to increase their income. The challenge is decreasing the expenses. Now, we're fortunate because we're here in Florida, so real estate, we have a limit on how much that our real estate taxes can go up every year, but in a lot of states, real estate taxes can get out of control during retirement. Mm-hmm. Medical insurance premiums can get out of control.
Absolutely.
As you know, those are some of the biggest things. So we come back, we're to talk a little bit about what happens when people retire abroad. I want to find out if you've had any clients actually do that or that want to do that. So stay with us. We'll be right back with more words of wisdom from our good friend Steve Archer here on the Income Generation. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Income Generation. We're here talking with Steve Archer, founder of Strategic Senior Benefits Group. Steve, thanks for sticking around.
My pleasure.
So I had a client one time that moved to a foreign country because she thought that from a medical perspective, the country treated her a lot better than our country. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had anybody move abroad for that goal? Or
not yet.
Not
yet. I have about a dozen clients currently that are considering it. And
you do?
Okay. For their benefit that I have been doing some research and learning a little bit more about the lifestyle that you might be able to attain abroad.
So obviously one of the biggest issues then is going to be, you can manage risk in investments, but now you've got the issue of how to manage risk when it comes to currency. How much money you let them take to their country, denominated in the currency in which they're going to be spending, versus how much you leave here. And that's a tough decision. I mean, you got to talk people through that, right?
Absolutely. It's a hard conversation to have as well. Folks will ordinarily think, well, the whole big reason for moving abroad, number one, is to go there and have a higher standard of living at a lower cost. And they assume that they can use all of the money that they have accumulated here towards that end. And it's not a real good idea for the reasons that you just mentioned.
And let's say the central banks, right? All this manipulation the central banks have been doing lately, of interest rates and quantitative easing and so on, that's going to make your job a lot easier when it comes to currency hedging, is it not?
No, I'm sure it will, yes.
It's crazy what we've seen out there. But so let's get off this topic for just a minute of retiring abroad, because most of our viewers, I'm sure, aren't going to be doing that. So in the final minute that we have in this block, Tell our viewers right now the best words of advice that you can give them when it comes to the financial markets, where you see the stock market right now, interest rates, and if they're within 10 years of retirement, what do they need to know?
Good question, Dave. It's tough to condense that into just a small segment, but I suppose number one would be, in light of volatility that they may experience out there in the markets, get your bills down as low as you possibly can moving into retirement. I'm always a big fan of explaining to clients that maybe it's more important to consider the experiences that you would have in retirement as opposed to the things. You know, is that big house that you dreamed about as important as what you can do every day that that creates memories?
So play good budget defense.
Yes.
Okay. 20 seconds. What else?
Beyond that, going back to the topic that we touched on a little bit earlier, it's investing for income. That
Investing
is
for income.
far and away the most important thing that somebody can do as they move into retirement. Recognizing the difference between the accumulation phase of your life and the distribution phase of your life. Hands down.
Well said. Maybe that's why we're such good friends, because we see eye to eye on lots of stuff.
Could
So, Steve, thank you very much for being here with us. And you stay with us. We'll be right back here on The Income Generation. I'm David Scranton.